Stand by for the broadcast. Test, test. Today is June 30th, 2018. Get ready for the emergency broadcast system, the Forbidden History series, what they didn't want you to know, but we tell right here, because somebody's got to do it, ladies and gentlemen. After all, you wanted to know, didn't you? So please consider calling your friends right now, letting them know as well. They want to know. And thanks for doing that. Constructive notice, this program is the sole paramount copyright and intellectual property of Desert Owl and MFG. All rights reserved, no reproduction of this presentation is permitted and is strictly prohibited without the express consent of the author. Please note that the following views and the opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily the views nor the opinions of the Master Force Group, YouTube.com, Free America Radio Network, our sponsors, our partners, and MFG is a private society. Nothing here is ever to be construed as medical nor legal advice. And listen to the Forbidden History prime time, 7 days a week, right here, twice a day on therealpublicradio.net, because hidden beneath the sands of time lies the greatest of all mysteries. It's the Forbidden History. Unearth for yourself the secret truths that lie hidden just beneath the surface below our feet. What is it that the powers that be do not want you or I to know? Come and journey with us as we explore and dare to know, because it's all right here. Coming your, coming your way 7 days a week, twice a day, 9 a.m. Eastern Time and 8 p.m. 9 a.m. Eastern Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Time. On therealpublicradio.net. We'll get it right. Free America Radio Network. We're just therealpublicradio.net. What do you think? Regular people doing extraordinary things, and thanks to all of you out there. Coming to you live from Studio Z at the Lighthouse in Central Ohio, and Free America Radio Network in the land of dreams, enchantments, and nightmares. It's the Forbidden History series, The Words That Kill, The Great Lies of History, The Original Thought Transliteration Project, and a whole lot more, ladies and gentlemen. And welcome to the broadcast. I'm your host, Desert Owl, a bird who sees in the night. And boy, am I seeing some stuff this morning in my reading. I feel like, okay, how did I miss this? But of course, you know, I'm grateful to Farrar Fenton, the most important Bible translation in modern time, because he got me on a roll to read the scriptures from cover to cover again, and I'm in 2 Kings, and whoa, I have just literally made some connections that I failed to remember in detail, and therefore that's why we got to go back and read it again. And so I've got something to share with you that just really, I think, will put everything right in proper perspective. And we're going against the greatest lies. Okay, the greatest lies of history are affecting us. And if a lie is repeated long enough, suddenly it seems like it becomes truth. How can that happen, right? But it does. Okay, and thanks for the audio check there, Lynn, out there in Transylvania. That's where my good buddy Neil Price, ex-attorney, he was exposing all those corrupt judges and prosecutors out there in Transylvania. So they took his shingle away, so he couldn't practice law and expose those judges anymore. So Neil goes around like an angel, just helping people like a paralegal now. And whereas while his clothes are wearing down into rags, it's a shame what happened to him. But that's what happens when you're just too darn honest, you know, and trying to expose corruption, because the corruption is ruling, and therefore the good guys get washed away like the snow in the rain, down the drain, little by little, as the corruptors find the need to do that. We're doing a call-in program. So at the beginning of a program, in the middle, or at the end, I don't care. You're welcome to call in. Friends, okay? And if you want to call in, the phone number is 608-566-7295. Finally got that audio figured out. So your voice will be heard, and mine as well, on our grassroots phone conferencing system, okay? We're just grassroots all the way, but we get the job done because somebody's got to do it. 608-566-7295. It's a caller-generated program, I hope. Because that was my objective, was to help people. I've answered all my questions, okay? I'm on overload, right? And so all I want to do is help others to figure out this great mystery that has been affecting them and their family and their friends. Okay, it's an abusive world, and we want to help people out, to let them know, no, you're not crazy. Okay, you're not crazy. They're crazy. The psychopaths running a world are crazy. You're just, you've been, victimized by, you're drinking too much of their fluoride. You're breathing the toxic air with all the chemical spraying that's going in there. Your food has been GMO'd, engineered frankenfood. Everything you touch simply seems there to harm you. Okay. Lynn says, and the good will be called bad, and the bad good. That's for sure, Len. And welcome to our new listeners. If we have new listeners on the call today, perhaps you're coming in for the first time, and I know you'll be saying, okay, where did Desert get all this stuff from? And you'll just have to stay tuned and go listen to the back issues. All right. The Skype name is Free America Radio. That's all one word, Free America Radio. Okay. And you can do a instant message on Skype and just type me your question, or you can call in on Skype. I'm still waiting to test my Skype audio system, because I think it may be actually the best, even beyond the phone, because it's on the desktop, so it goes right through the feed. But we got a good system set up with the phone as well. And if you're going to ask questions on the chat room, then I suggest you post the word question in all capital letters with a colon or a question mark after it. Okay, all capital letters for question, and then in upper and lowercase do your question. Okay, that way I won't miss it. It won't fly by, and I didn't get your question. I don't want to, miss helping somebody out when they're trying to figure stuff out. And good to have you, Anna, last name. Okay, and the psychopaths are running the world. You got it right there. And I just can't imagine what it must be to be, a psychopath, like getting up thinking about, going to kill a bunch of people tomorrow, like the classic, nothing new under the sun. Roosevelt knew, that Japan was going to attack Pearl Harbor. Actually, in the Hilo newspaper there in Hawaii, the weekend before it happened, they put in the newspaper, will Japan attack Hawaii, or Japan may attack Hawaii next weekend. I mean, that literally was in the newspaper. I used to interview Ralph Epperson, who wrote the book The Unseen Hand, and a number of other books. Ralph is really an interesting researcher. So and he went and did the microfishing and got the newspaper cover of the newspaper that had the headline, and I used to show that. I'll have to dig it up again and post that as one of the the photo banners, because see, so Roosevelt, he sold out about 2,000 American sailors and soldiers. Okay, Roosevelt, and then because he was the Illuminati, Roosevelt family, they're Illuminatis. They're just the special elite. You're not in their club, and you're goyim, and they'll chew you up and spit you out whenever it's required. They'll even chew out and spit up their own. They don't care. They'll betray their own brotherhood. There's no honor among thieves and murderers and psychopaths, right? And so I just can't imagine what when we looked at these people, George Bush Jr., who obviously must have been without getting graphic, sexually abused by his parent, because that's what they do in these Illuminati families. They abuse their children sexually to totally put them under the spell of their mind control and head trip, and to break them, and then they do what Daddy says. And so you can tell George Bush Jr. Way back when he was president, he just was some mindless. They were really concerned about what he might say next, because he was just, every night they put him away in a closet, to make sure he doesn't get lost in the White House, and then they let him out the next day to do his programming, well, that's it, and they took a blood oath. They're in their I don't think they have a brain. They sold their soul. So what that means, they sold their own reasoning, their own conscience, and therefore they're pretty well dead up there, and they're probably on some drug as well. Stand by. Anyway, enough of that. We have to. I just want to mention that tonight. Okay, I'm going to be doing a presentation on the flood at 9 p.m. 8 p.m. tonight. I get confused between morning and evening. I wish I had them at the same time, but it works out this way. 8 p.m. Eastern time tonight. The flood of Noah. Okay, I'm going to show you the graphic that you'll recognize where the flood waters came in, and you're going to see that it is the biggest flood in history, and then explains how Noah's Ark got to where it got, and all of the missing pieces of the puzzle. Okay, so that'll be tonight. Of course, it's all recorded. If you can't make it, then you'll be able to get the replay. And by the way, the UV B and C is off the charts, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, the UV radiation, it's like a microwave oven out there. I feel it reflecting off the house across the street from me, and I have to close my blinds here. The intensity of the sun shine with the solar radiation is just reflecting off the house across the street right into my window. I've got to close my blinds, and you don't want reflective. You don't even want reflective UVB or C because it's just as bad, and you could be getting a double concentration. Okay, so don't forget to listen to Dane Wigington later on today. He usually posts his Saturday report at about usually by 2 p.m. Eastern time. Dane Wigington, that's his YouTube channel, Dane Dane Wigington, Wigington, Dane Wigington, as it sounds. And he's got geoengineeringwatch.org. I know most of you are Sky watchers, so you probably already know this, but for anybody getting the recording later on, okay? He's on the cutting edge. Nobody explains the weather phenomena and the manipulation that they're doing with our weather. Okay, and the Earth is heating up. Okay, that's the truth. They're doing these selective cool downs, and I'll just say one thing. Okay, um, well, in 2011 they poked a hole in the Gulf of Mexico in a deep well, and they did that on purpose because they knew that once oil got into the Gulf, it would stop the Gulf Stream. They had to stop the Gulf Stream. Okay, and that's why England in the wintertime is super cold, and now our eastern seaboard in America is super cold because the tropical weather now is coming straight up from the tropics, right across the Gulf, right up the coast. You notice all of our weather patterns have changed, and it's because they stopped by the dumping all that core exit as well. It wasn't just the oil of the deep well that popped open, but it was also the core exit that they continually dumped for like over a year. I don't know how long. It was unbelievable, and it was poison, toxic, killing the Gulf. And they killed the Gulf. They stopped the Gulf Stream, and now instead the waters come out of the Arctic and into the Atlantic, creating a whole new current, air current, water current, and that's why England is now super cold in the wintertime, and our eastern seaboard is. Okay, it's manufactured, it was engineered, and then they throw the ice nucleation chemicals in the clouds, and they got all the snow dumping, and it's all the grand master's illusion, not our master, their master. Okay, but they didn't count on, of course, destroying the ozone layer, and that's why the solar radiation is coming in. The oceans are heating up. All the forests are dying around the world. Just do a search on Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the Sierra Mountains, Rocky Mountains, Europe, forests dying around the world. You'll see it with your own eyes. Our world is dying. It's almost over, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why this work is so important, okay? Because the only thing we have left is our spirituality. They robbed us of our short moment on this beautiful planet. And so now we only have to simply, prepare right now to make our calling and election sure. Okay, so I want to do real quick the words that kill, and give you just a couple examples, and then I got this profound expose on the out of Farrar Fenton's translation out of Second Kings. Blow your mind, and I know we're doing the history of the church every morning, but I thought, well, okay, that includes everything when we talk history of the church, and so I thought, I might do another read out of the New Testament Apocrypha, Volume 2, that was originally done in Germany, and read the Acts of Thomas, just the introductory. I'm not going to read it all, but just the first part of the Acts of Thomas, because remember after Yeshua rose, came back a second time, rose from the dead, then the 12 then dispersed throughout the world in order to bring the good news. And so Thomas, he went to India, okay, and so to hear the story, it's just you haven't heard it before. I'm sure you probably haven't, and so it's a mind blow. So I just thought I'd deviate from the book, the history of the church by Eusebius, and just give you another history of the church from another book, because I enjoyed reading it so much, and it's rather captivating how it started. Okay, and but a couple words. So get your pen and paper handy, because I'm going to give you two words here to show the original thought. Okay, because you hear me when I transliterate and I'm reading. It's like, okay, where's Desert getting all this stuff? And I can show it to you. Okay, it's not a mystery. It's not out of thin air. It is a science, and it is the law of the diction. So and I learned this a long time ago, like 35 years ago, about the priesthoods and and the secret societies, how they would it is the custom from ancient time for the priesthood not to reveal their primary code. So if they were going to like show you their alphabet, they would not show you the alphabet in the proper order, and they may take out a letter, or they may add a letter, and they'll switch out some letter arrangements, because they consider the alphabet their mother, their goddess, their the DNA of life, as I called it. That words are the DNA of life, and so they're not going to reveal the mystery of their culture, because it would be like surrendering your secrets, or surrendering your soul. And so in their superstition, in their mythology, they're going to protect their baby and their woman. And so so that's a part of the element of this mystery of how they've engineered. It's always been going on. There's no time when the game was not played. It is the way it is. So I'm going to reveal the meaning of two words, so because you can get the picture a little better. So with the write down in capital letters the parent root of SN, okay, SN next to each other like it's a word, capital S, capital N, and you see the N has a sliding board. The S is symbolic as it sounds. S sounds like the serpent. Okay, it's symbol of the serpent, and and it's also half a number 8. You can connect it on the other side, and you get the number 8. And so it implies that there is a return. That whichever comes out, Yeshua and the Great Father Yahweh is looking for a harvest. They didn't create this universe, and they didn't create this garden that we live in not to have a harvest. They're down here looking for the fruit that's ripe, and they want to harvest that fruit. And so SN is the prime root. Now we're going to do a series of words, 4 of them, and we're going to first write down, and you can drop down below SN because SN is the primary. So below, we're going to now add the vowels. And so write down SVN. And you're going to go linear. You're going to go from left to right in right forward. So SVN is the Latin for sun. Okay, the V would have a U sound. The V is symbolically perfect for the word sun, because it stands for the virgin light. But then put a parentheses or what, comma, and then make the next word, skip a space, make the next word SUN, okay, and that's the corruption of what is, because the U is a corruption overall, so the V is more appropriate in the sense of the symbol, standing for virgin light, excuse me, but the SUN we regard as indeed the solar sun up in the sky. But then, another comma, space, third word, SON. SON, okay, we regard as when you have a boy, but very appropriately, it could symbolize, and does, the sun, because the circle, we know the sun is a circle, it's an orb, and therefore the circle properly of all those letters most clearly defines the solar disk. Okay, so three different, and we're not talking about soul. We could talk about SOL, or we could talk about there's different words that have been used for the sun, but we're not interested in those. We're looking at the next word that's coming up. It's going to be the interesting one, okay? Because clearly these are all regarding, when you had a boy, they said we have a son, meaning we have a star. We have a star. That's what they're saying. When I had a boy, yeah, he's going to be the inheritor of the estate. He's going to be the one we're counting on to provide for us in our old age. He's the star. Even all the other boys in the ancient custom even could have been slaves. The second and third generation sons could have been slaves to the first one. They get nothing unless they're lucky. And so it's rather interesting, how the custom came down that way. But it does tell a story. It gives us a picture. But then the next word I want you to write down, comma, skip a space, and then write down the word sin, S-I-N. So you notice something rather interesting about the SN root. The SN root is the prime root of the sun, meaning that which came down. The serpent came down, creation came down, the light came down. SN is a hieroglyph, and it means the serpent that came down. We saw the serpent on the Pharaoh's headdress when he was sitting on the sun throne. Okay, so these symbols are speaking, but they didn't tell us on the documentary or anywhere else about these symbols and what they're telling. They're telling a story. They are right on. They are exact into what job they've been appointed to. And so what's interesting now, we're talking about sin being darkness. How did that get there? Okay, and it's by the vowel. The vowel, the letter I, is if you've listened to these programs, is the blind. The letter I is the corruption. The dot on the small I is symbolically the moon, and the stick below it is a horizon. If you turn it over from being vertical to horizontal, and you could imagine the eye coming up over it, it's symbolically the rising of the moon, and that's the Lucifer that has no light. It's the light of fire, but it's not the fire. It's the light. It's a reflection of the fire. So sin then is the same, made up of the same consonant parent root form as the light, but when you add the letter I, you get darkness, because the I is the corrupt baby, and it's the blind, and Lucifer is known as the blind goddess. Okay, so this is a code, and so in the first instance we could call sin, the blind, but the literal sense of it, because we don't want to read the code, we want to interpret the code because it's hiding the original thought, the original meaning. And so sin literally means the closing of the eye, or in the symbolism of nature, the eclipse of the sun. So we know that even the occult called the sun the all-seeing eye. That's why it's on the back of the dollar bill at the top of the pyramid, because it's at the top of the pyramid, because it's at the top of everything, and it creates all things. The sun has created all the solar system that we see. Everything came out of it, with maybe the exception of the giant gaseous orbs. I have a feeling they may have come from outside of the solar system and joined in. But the planets, the moons, come from the out of the sun. And I even have a YouTube. Once I get all my data back on my computer, I could give you the link and show you the sun giving birth to an orb with a 100,000-mile umbilical cord attached, feeding the magma into the orb, and then it detaches. Literally, we see it detach and drift away. So the sun is giving birth. It's a parent. It's the parent star. It's the mother star. Okay, and so sin then is blindness, and what it means is the closing of the eye, and so it implies then the black sun, or putting the light out, and that's what the occult like to do. They hate the sun, they hate the light because it represents Yahweh. Okay, and so meditate on that and get the picture. because when I transliterate in the scriptures as I'm reading, or if I'm doing the transliteration in the work I do, then sin is not going to be used because it's a code, and we want the original, and the original would be either darkness or blindness. Those are the primary. It's either darkness or blind, and so, or closing your eyes. That's the literal sense of the sin. Because if you're gonna do something you know is wrong, what do you got to do? You got to close your eyes, right? Because you're not looking anymore, in your heart, and so you close your eyes to the truth. You close your eyes to your own action, and that's what sin means. So the sun is the eye. It represents the great spirit. Okay, the sun is not the great spirit. It's just, it's just matter up there, but it represents. It's a symbol, the logo. Remember, in the Greek, it's the logo, and so therefore it represents the all-seeing eye of the great Father of light. The light penetrates everything, but He is beyond it. He's the ultraviolet. He's the invisible light that is everywhere in all things. The sun just represents Him. So the sin represents closing the eye and putting out the light. Okay. So that's that. One more, okay, and then Cain. So Cain kills Abel. So let's write down the word Abel, Abel, and now we're going to go back to the primordial, because Abel is a corruption. You may remember when I did the presentation on the A and the V, and we haven't gone. I've got to get another whiteboard because I used real magic marker on my whiteboard by mistake. I can't get over it. So unless I can clean it up, I haven't worked on it yet. But the AV, okay. They gave us ABC, okay. But write down ABC, and then under it write down AVG, okay. Because the original alphabet is AVG. The V was hiding in the A because the A, when it's complete, is the Zionist star. I probably should show this to our new friends out there. Let me just show you the board real quick so you get the picture. Okay, let me figure this out here, and hopefully the camera's set up. I didn't test it. Video captured. Boom. Turn out the rainbow. Boom. There we are. Okay. So there's what the AV, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Combined. See, in other words, the cross beam. Where am I? Over here. The cross beam in the A is part of the Zionist star. Okay, right here, over here. Okay, and then the old A looked like this. It was a little different. It was a little different than our modern A over here. This A has actually the chevron right there, which shows the V. It's clearly the V. Yeah, that's right, Lynn. Well, yeah, if you look at my document, it's those letters are still to be rearranged. But so the AV is the star. And so the A represents the sun. The V represents the moon. And so that's sun and moon together. And so the A represents the light, and the moon represents the darkness. And thus you have combined within the star of creation, the six-pointed star, the creation of all things. Within dense matter, of course, we have the density of darkness, but by the propulsion of light. It's the mixing. It's the alchemy, right? Okay, and so there's the AVG, and underneath the A is the O, and the AY is the original word for I, EYE. Okay, and B is hiding as a code the number 13. It replaced the V. The B replaced the V as a code, and it meant that they were under the lunar cycle. Well, I just told you that the V represents the moon, and there they put instead a code that represents the moon's 13 months, 28 days each month of the year, 13 moons, 13 lunar cycles. Okay, so that's how the occult are playing the game on us. And I just want you to see the AV, because we're now going to correct the word Abel. Okay, so let me put back the the rainbow. Okay, and so now you got the picture. You got the picture, and so now we're going to correctly write down the word Abel, and it's going to be like this, okay? Capital A, capital V, and then a hyphen. Hyphen meaning, the minus symbol, and then capital E and capital L. So as you can see that Abel is Avel, and it has two parent roots, and the AV, as I just showed you, represents the star. It represents a star, the sun. And we're talking about the light today. We just did the sun. Now we're looking at it in another form, in another code, and it is the AV combined makes the six-pointed star, and then you separate them to get the picture, and you see it is an upper and a lower component, the male and the female. The A represents the alpha male, and the V is the virgin woman that is coming down, the light that is radiating down. That's why Mary, Mary, the Virgin Mary, represents the virgin light. Mary Magdalene represented the Luciferian symbol of the moon and the whore that was cured. Yeshua cured her, cast out the seven. Well, casting out the seven meant casting out time, symbolically, that because she was brought into the day without end, the eternal day in Yeshua. She was purified, and therefore goes back to the primordial virgin. Okay, so Avel. So Avel then being transliterated into its terminology literally means, since AV you now know means a star, and I think if you remember some of my other presentation, L is a prime root for enlightenment, okay, illumination, okay? So literally, Avel, misnomered as Abel, Avel literally means the star of enlightenment. And so when his brother Cain hit him over the head and killed him, what he was literally doing in the symbolism of the story was putting out the star of enlightenment. He was killing the star of enlightenment. Cain didn't like it, right? And so there's so much more to the story. Okay, there's so much more. There's a story. There's several stories behind the story, because one of the stories about Cain and Abel is in the mind of Adam himself, because Abel, remember, he came from Eden. He came from the star of enlightenment. He was with Yeshua while Yeshua made all things on earth. And then he comes into the fall, and now he has to do battle. Now he's got to determine, what am I going to do? Do I fall into the the wiles of the serpent, or do I maintain the truth that I know? And so his battle is in the mind, and so in the mind, Cain ruled. Cain, excuse me, I got a cough. Hang on. Okay, in the story, thank you. Cain is going to rule, and it's going to kill in the mind of Adam his purity. And the fire of Cain, because Cain represents fire, and it was about the fire of the passions and the psychological trip of, being a creator, like the creator. So the fire of Cain came upon the pure virgin light, the star of enlightenment, and killed Abel. So it literally is a story of the psychology of what was going on in the Naga, who was Adam, and he was the serpent, and why then he chose not to obey the higher order of things and fell into the animal compulsion to be like the animals. That's what we see today with people. They are like animals. Actually, they give animals a bad name, don't they? I mean, animals are better creatures than people, it looks like, right? So it's quite a deal to have to deal with these great mysteries, because they're all hiding from us, and so they're to be revealed, they're to be known, and it's so bad. I used to think when I was discovering all this stuff, like, I'm not supposed to tell anybody all this. These are the mysteries, these are the secrets. But then ultimately, as I grew up more and got into my journey, and then was doing the broadcasting, I realized, I said, I got to tell people this stuff. I got to, because here's the problem, because these written stories would have been, number one, been telling it correctly, and they're not. And number two, everybody, if they were taught correctly, would know how to read. But the problem is nobody knows how to read, because they were fed a program, told this is what it means, this is what it says, it doesn't mean nothing else. Here, and so literally we have been fed a lie. And so therefore, what, the objective here is actually to show everybody how they weren't shown how to read the symbol. It starts with the alphabet. And so you got to, and the G, by the way, just because I didn't touch on that, the AVG for our new listeners here, the G is the symbol of the sun. And that's why the Mason always wore the G on his ring, right? Well, it represents the sun in the sense of gold, the golden sunlight. Then also the geode for the earth, the geo, also known as Gaia or Gaia, the Mother Earth, right? And then geometry. Okay, geometry for all of the shapes and sizes and constructions of nature. So the G represents several things, but in the primary represents the golden light of the sun. Okay, so there you go, and I hope it'll help you to have light bulbs going off when you're reading on your own, because you'll start to see things. If you're getting the picture, you'll begin to make sense. Changing the letters of the other words. Remember, you're reading Abraham. Well, you read some encyclopedia or dictionary by those who are calling themselves Israel today, who are not Israel, and in there you'll notice that they don't spell Abraham with the B, they spell it with a V, Abraham. Okay, so you got to pay attention to the tricks and the trade and the trap and the trick and the patterns that they're using, okay, because it tells a story. They're telling you, it's in your face. They're telling you, and it's So anyway, we're at the okay. So now where we're at with this sharing of what I read this morning with you is the duality revealed. Remember, I'm doing the duality revealed every day, and I'm showing you why it is that the occult took over our pure tradition. How did they get away with it? Was Yahweh and Yeshua so weak that the occult dark forces just literally robbed them and took all the treasures and then rewrote them and kicked us in the teeth? Or was it meant to be this way? Is there a pattern in our scriptures that's showing us? And my whole point here is to show you that it's throughout. The message is from beginning to end in these scriptures that Yeshua and Yahweh, the great Elohim, was showing us that the occult would ultimately take over the truth, because that's their game. That's what they got to do, because they want to deny us the light of the truth. They wanted to enslave us. They wanted to make us, use us for cannon fodder, put them on the front line of the war, every war they have, right? A really profound quote is Montesquieu from France in the 1700s. He wrote the book, The Spirit of Law, The Spirit of the Laws, or The Spirit of the Law. Yeah, Spirit of the Law. And in there, he said that all of the wars, and he obviously was an insider to be able to make this statement. He said all of the wars for the last 2,000 years have been for no other reason than to work as depopulation programs for one another's nation. Did you ever hear that one before? Makes sense, doesn't it? Absolutely. I've got a cough again. Hang on. Okay. So I think you got the picture with that one, didn't you? Okay. You know it. You know it's true. That the wars, we don't know why these wars are being portrayed. It's always a different reason than they told us. and we're the biggest stoops and poops and dupes that ever walked the planet, ready to go to battle for whatever reason they said it was. Yeah, Al Qaeda, man, they took down the Twin Towers. Al Qaeda, yeah, Osama bin Laden, and they don't even know that the bin Laden family were best friends and construction partners with the Bush family, and the bin Laden family were flown out when all other airplanes in America were grounded because of the tragedy in New York. Yet the Osama bin Laden family could special orders fly out of America, go back to the Middle East, right? And Osama dying of cancer or whatever illness he had, was willing to play the puppet for the bad guy, the role of the bad guy, because they made the trade, they made the Saudi families and all those Middle Eastern people wealthy with our funny money buying. When we bought oil, we made them rich. When we bought gasoline, we made them rich. We created this state, this terrorist state that is a grand illusion and a prop by the whipping boy of modern time, USA Incorporated. Used to be England, but England said, no, we'll make you the bad guy now, and we'll sit back and relax, and that's the way the game is played. The 50 stars on the American flag don't represent the 50 states in America. It's a metaphor and a symbol for the collective states of the world, of the entire world. Those are the states all organized against you. Okay? All organized against you. That's right. And they need a blood sacrifice for it to create the war. Yeah, they're killing chickens, blood sacrifices, and no telling, and taking their drug. That's right. Drinking the blood. Okay, so let's get to before I lose my voice here, let's get to this story. That's enough of politics and the depressing state of affairs. Now we're into the duality revealed in this story. I'm going to reveal the duality. Okay, I was astonished this morning in my reading in 2 Kings how it goes further, because you remember just a day or so ago I talked about the columns. The night before we had talked about I think that the Twin Towers. I can't remember now what I was talking about, but I know it was talking about the columns. How I discovered within Fenton, for our Fenton, the most important scriptures to ever come out in our modern time. You got to get it. Go to artisanpublishers.com. That's artisanpublishers.com. Tell my friends over there, Desert sent you, and they'll get it right out to you. Okay, you'll think you're reading the scriptures for the first time, but in here he used columns, whereas in all the others it says idols. So they're not describing the idols. You see, idols is a generic term. What kind of idols were they? And we think that there's some kind of bogeyman, right? Some kind of Hindu mask or something. But no, they were columns. And then immediately I saw it right in Freemasonry, because on each side of the classic picture of all the Freemason symbols, you got two columns, one on the right, one on the left, and one is called Boaz, and one's called Joachim, something like that, Joachim, and I gave those books away. I don't have time for that stuff anymore. I gave all that away to other friends who never read it before. I got to stay with the scriptures now, but I remember, and so how irrelevant. I'm gonna have to borrow that book back now, I think, take another look at it. But anyway, so in this story we're going to learn how that which is false has taken over that which is true. And it's like I never heard this story before. I never got it. Never saw it when I was younger and reading, from cover to cover. I wasn't primed yet, to have it sink in. But now in this whole duality thing I'm sharing with you folks every day, how appropriate Yahweh gave me the timing to stumble into this particular chapter right at the moment when the discussion was going on. Okay, and it's going to nail on the head with this thing about Israel, and so it's really profound. And how did everybody, not just me, not just we, but everybody miss it when it's right there in the book? Okay, right there, can't miss it once you're reading it. Got your thinking cap on. So I'm gonna read this chapter, just one chapter, because I've got to. It's I want to make sure I don't miss anything here. So it'll come about halfway. The meat really comes halfway into it. The other things, wait a minute. In the 12th year of Ahaz, um, royal Malik of Judah. Now, I just want to qualify that, Israel has already been divided. Okay, we had the 10 northern tribes, and then we've got Judah, and Benjamin's just kind of going along for the ride. Benjamin is not being regarded, he's like, right there with Judah. So Judah and Benjamin are one in that sense. And there's a story here because that which is small, that's what Judah becomes, right? You got the 10 tribes over there, then you got this little one tribe with another, small tribe hanging on, the smallest of the seeds of Yaakov, the children of Jacob, right? Benjamin. He's there with Judah. Benjamin represents that which is last because he came last of the 12, and he represents that which is smallest because we get the impression of him as a little boy, and therefore fits the picture then with Judah, because the symbol for Judah is a dot. The symbol for Judah is the Yud. The Yud-ah is the Yud, and that's a dot. And a little period, a little dot, the smallest symbol of all of our letters and symbols, is representing the Son of creation. And it's so powerful, in fact, that a little dot, the smallest of all the symbols, stops everything. You put it at the end of a sentence, it stops everything, you see? So the smallest is the greatest. So what we got to get the picture of is when the kingdom was divided, is that Israel, was becoming irrelevant, and the throne of David in Judah, the tribe of Judah, was being maintained by Yahweh, the last remnant, the smallest in a sense, which Judah represents the lion, so it represents the sun again. The Yud the point represents the sun, and Judah represents the sun, but correctly, the original thought, you want to hear it? You never heard it before. You want to hear the original word, Judah? There's no D in it, okay? It's Yoodtha. Can you see the word that's hiding all there? Yoodtha. Yoodtha. Why? Because the star is perpetually young with all that powerful energy. It's like being in your prime when you were 18 years old. 18 representing 3 6s, the star. Yoodtha, meaning the power of perpetual youth, the day without end. All built in that word. You got to hear first, ladies and gentlemen. Don't you forget it. And you want to tell your friends, right? You want them to know these great mysteries. Okay? You don't get it anywhere else because nobody's talking it. They can't interpret it. They can't talk it. And then the occult, who basically know all this stuff because they all corrupted it all. The Kabbalists or the Bhagwan Gandhi Rashishi in India, they're the ones who corrupted it all for us and gave us pig Latin. Okay? So Yeshua is the revealer. That's the good news. It is meant to be revealed. It had to come to us in corrupt form. Otherwise, it would not have been preserved. It would have been absolutely, totally destroyed and annihilated. So instead, the occult got the famous idea of saying, hey, why don't we just play the role? Let's put on the act. Let's be the priest. Let's be the religion. And we'll get everybody to bow down, kiss our toe, and serve us and give us their money. And we'll have a party. We'll rape and sacrifice their children. And we'll burn them at the stake anytime they give us a bad day. How about that, right? And if not, we'll put them on a battlefield somewhere in war, and we'll keep the population down. We'll keep them in check. We'll keep them. There'll be perpetual war, perpetual war, perpetual war. No end to war, right? World of war, war, war. How come there's no Department of Peace in Washington, right? There's only a Department of War, no Department of Peace. Go to the office of Israel, ask them where the Palestinian office is, and they'll tell you, oh, well, we handle the Palestinian office here. Give me a break, right? While they're slaughtering those poor people under the ultimate mind control state that ever existed. Better than Nazi Germany. Boy. Okay, let's get to it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry I got on a roll again. In the 12th year, and by the way, for our new listeners, you are tuned in to the realpublicradio.net. Free America Radio Network. I'm Desert Owl. Glad you're tuned in. Hope you're telling your friends about the broadcast. And check out those past issues we've just done. We're in program number 9. And we're not stopping until the cow jumps over the moon, okay? And that's going to happen real soon, I think. Okay, chapter 7 in 2 Kings. In the 12th year of Ahaz, the royal Malik, that's king, the royal Malik of Judah, Hoshea ben Allah, began to reign in Shomeron. Shomeron is Syria in our other scriptures, but Fenton has rightly defined it's really Shumaron, and there's the word for Shua, knowledge. Okay, Shomeron is not correct; it's still too short. It's Shomeron over Israel. So Hoshea is rules over Syria. We can call Samaria, excuse me, Samaria, um, and over Israel. So we can call it Samaria, but Fenton has the more original. He's correcting all the tricks they played on us. That's what's really cool about Fenton. Okay, so for 9 years, and the footnote that Fenton has is because anarchy was reigning for the preceding 9 years. Prior to that, there was chaos going on. It didn't look like the Israel that they were supposed to be. He did wrong. Okay, Hoshea did wrong in the eyes of Yahweh, yet not before yet not like the king, the royal Malek of Israel, who were before him. Shalmaneser, king of Ashur, advanced against him, and Hoshea became his subject. So Israel becomes the slave of Assyria and paid him tribute. However, the king of Ashur discovered Hoshea was conspiring when he sent ambassadors to Shua, the king of Mitzrayim, Egypt, and did not send up the yearly tribute to the king of Ashur. And the king of Ashur consequently deposed and confined him in a fortress. The king of Ashur also invaded the whole land. What we're witnessing basically is the annihilation now. The final part, we're witnessing the annihilation of Israel. Okay, it's over. It's over because when he said you needed to do these things and they wouldn't do it, therefore they're now being annihilated. It's over. Okay, this we're talking 730 BC, so it's still about 200 years before the banishment of Judah, not Israel, but Judah to Babylon. Okay, Judah and Benjamin. Okay, so, but right now we're witnessing the final annihilation of Israel, 730 BC. Get the picture. Okay, and welcome to our new listeners there. Okay, so I went to Shua. Okay, and I lost my place here. I'm sorry. So we went to Shua, the king of, and transported the. Okay, I'll just pick up right here with the Egypt part, verse 4. And he went down to Mitzrayim, and then he did not send up the yearly tribute to the king of Ashur. So the king of Ashur consequently deposed and confined him in a fortress. The king of Ashur also invaded the whole land and ravaged it for 3 years, 3 being rather symbolic, like Yeshua being in the grave, 3 for the 3 ages of time, the age before the flood, the age after the flood, then the golden age of light that Yeshua brought in, 3 being significant. It's a prediction and a remnant of the past. Very prophetic. In the 7th year, 7 again representing time, in the 7th year of Hoshea, the king of Ashur captured Samaria, Shumaron, and transported Israel to Ashur, to Assyria, and settled them in Kalaak, and adjoining the river Gozan, and the cities of the Medes. And that's interesting because that's actually where we get the word media. Okay, rather interesting. That's there. And there was a place there called Nicomedia. And right in the middle of Nicomedia is the word comedy. And that's where it comes from. Okay, that was the crossroad between the East and the West. And that was a controlling pivot point. Okay. And so it was, continuing verse 7, it was because the seed of Israel with the kings they made closed their eyes, there's sinned, closed their eyes against Yahweh. So again, it was because the seed of Israel with the the kings that the royal Malak that they made closed their eyes against Yahweh, who is the great Elohim, who brought them up from the land of Mitzrayim. And then I have to interject Egypt to help people out. From under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim, and reverenced foreign deities. They reverenced foreign deities and not the one who delivered them from Mitzrayim, and walked in the customs of the heathen, whom Yahweh drove out from before the seed of Israel, drove them out. And the seed of Israel also closed their eyes in many other things, not being in harmony with their great Yahweh, who is the great Elohim, and built columns. There we go, the columns for themselves in all their cities, with observatory towers as well in the fortified cities. And they set up pillars for themselves. So there's the two pillars, and as Lynn appropriately identified it a day or so ago when I was talking about it, and then she referred to Samson. Samson, what a quick mind. She refers to Samson, and I never saw it, and referred to him as pushing over the two pillars. He was in between the two pillars, which represented the sun and moon, and time itself, representing time. That's what sun and moon represent in this instance as pillars, because the L represents time, the letter L, and that's why it has to do with enlightenment at the same time. And in between the pillars, they had the altar. And it said that they passed their children through the fire. And so it appears they built a fire on this altar, and then they passed them across the fire to the other side, while the pillars are on each side. The fire representing, obviously, the fire of the sun, a purification rite. So continuing here, and they set up pillars for themselves and shrines. Oh, and then for those who didn't hear it the other day, and you go back and listen, then these pillars. So in other words, nothing new under the sun. And what did they do between these pillars? They sacrificed people. Okay, they had sacrifices. And so then when we thought that when they had this, Israeli ritual sacrifice in New York City with these twin towers coming down with 3,000 people in them, and that here it's clear now. They hid from us in all of our scriptures the word columns, the two pillars that we find in Freemasonry, and they hid it in all the translations other than the one who was dedicated for 40 years to reading nothing but Hebrew and Greek, never would read English because he didn't want to be prejudiced by corrupt translations, and put in the proper word columns, probably the greatest Greek scholar and Hebrew scholar in history, at least in the 1800s. And so the twin towers, so when they had this ritual sacrifice of 3,000 people in New York, and the columns come down, the twin columns, nothing new under the sun. They've been doing it for thousands of years. We thought, how wicked can these people get? And yet they were just having the grand illusion of what they've been doing throughout these occult rituals from the beginning of recorded history. Okay, that's all it comes down to. It is nothing new under the sun. It was symbolic of what they had been doing for thousands of years: raping, murdering, killing, sacrificing. Right? Okay, so let me get back to where I was here. Okay, so 10, and they set up pillars for themselves and shrines on every hilltop and under every leafy tree. We're talking about Israel. Okay, Israel. And they also burnt incense at the columns like the heathen, to provoke Yahweh, and served idols, although Yahweh breathed unto them, you will not make any such things. I mean, literally, he told prior to Solomon, and I think it was in, when the law was being written by Moshe El, they even said in there, you shall not make columns. I've got to go back and find it now because it's not in our other scriptures. It's only in Fenton. You shall not make columns. And you know who the first one was to make columns? I already know. It was Solomon, because he made a column on both sides of the Sea of Aqaba, where the true Red Sea crossing occurred, when Israel left Egypt, which was the Sinai Peninsula, and went across the land bridge to the other side of Arabia, where the true Mount Ararat is. And on both sides of the water where the land bridge is, Solomon erected the first pillars. So it was Solomon who actually erected the very first pillars that they were told, you shall not do this thing. And so isn't it interesting? Because didn't Solomon fall? That's right. Solomon fell. You're right. He was doing the things. Who was the first one he married? It was a princess of Mitzrayim, Egypt. So that's why. I know why. Because he wanted to get that good stone. He wanted to get the good stone that was over there, and he got his stone from Mitzrayim that way, right? So he had to marry the girl, and so that's what they were using to set up these pillars. The classic stone from Mitzrayim that they used to build all their temples. The red granite, you remember that beautiful red granite? That's probably what they used. Okay, continuing. And so burn incense on the in between the columns like the heathen to provoke Yahweh, and served idols through even though Yahweh said to them, you shall not make any such things. Yet Yahweh had warned Israel and Judah, the split kingdom, by means of his navigators. Navigators, the original word, supplemented by prophets, and there's no prophet to be made. And every navigator was breathing, turn from your blind ways. Turn from your blind ways. There's evil, and evil is blind. See, they didn't want us to get the picture even of blindness. So they had to create the word evil to get it in there, because they don't want us to get the literal sense of what it means, to be, away from the light, and it is to be blind. Okay? So your blind paths, and turn away from your blind paths and keep my commandments and institutions according to the perfect laws that and pure shelter that I ordained for your ancestors, and that I sent to you by the hands of my Shurfan, servant and serpent, my Shurfan, and the navigators. They did not, however, listen, but stiffened their necks like the necks of their fathers. They did not listen, and stiffened their necks like the necks of their fathers, who were not loyal either to the great Yahweh and the great Elohim, and abandoned his institutions and his covenant, and the eye he made with their forefathers, and the evidences that he showed them, and went after their imaginations, capital I, imaginations, and worship beautiful architecture instead, and followed the heathen around them, of whom the Elohim commanded, you shall not do like them. You shall not be like them. Thus they abandoned the whole of the instructions of Yahweh, the great Elohim, and made 2 metal calves as well, and shrines, and worshipped and bowed down to all the sun and the moon of the sky, and served Baal representing the moon, Lucifer, the light that has no light, and passed their sons and daughters through the fire. That's Israel, and passed their sons and daughters through the fire, and practiced divination and worshiped snakes, and sold themselves to do blind acts in the sight of Yahweh, and provoked him, the one of the many. Consequently, Yahweh was very angry with Israel. Remember, Judah is not being included in here. This is the 10 northern tribes out of Syria. Okay, out of Samaria, Okay, and Yahweh was angry with Israel and turned them from his presence. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. This is the smoking gun right here. Okay, because what we're witnessing right here is how Israel was rejected for all time. Not Judah. This is Israel, the 10 tribes. 10, by the way, 10 in symbolism means judgment. 10 means judgment. Okay, you see Anna's got a question here. And could it be that the primary blind is not changeable, that the primary blind is not changeable, but the puppets and puppet masters could repent and see the light? Yeah, well, I think if anybody turned from their wickedness, and even if they took blood oaths, to how bad they were, the opposite reflection would be how good they'd be. They would have to ultimately be like the perfect sacrifice and giving their life to serve fellow man. We know there are many people that came out of the Illuminati families. They thought they were Christians, Then they woke up one day, found out that they're in in an occult family, and didn't even know, the whole story. And some of these people kill themselves, or they just escape and come away. I've had friends from the Illuminati families, and they're some of the smartest people I've ever met, because these people, abuse them, and do ritual sacrifices to them. They kill their favorite pets. They kill rabbits, and they terrorize them. And also the sexual abuse brings them to a heightened level. It has a stimulant for the mind to make one totally aware of their surroundings, a heightened awareness, and also therefore, and through the compartmentalizations, an ability to have acute recall, memory recall, and also just able to absorb information, all of these things. So that's the great irony. That's why the occult rape their children and do these things. So they know, and even the psychiatrists were doing it out of these families, because they knew that it altered their children to a higher level. That's only the side benefit, I guess, that you get from that abuse, is that something profound is enhanced within the mind of dealing with acute awareness and the ability to comprehend and memorize and to see. Obviously that you would have eyes to see if you were a victim of abuse, right? So I would say that the lineage of the Watchers are bound here forever, because that's what it said in the scriptures, that they were bound here in chains. They're bound here in chains, and so there's no going back for who I call the unseen hand, the ones who are real, not these puppets. I think the puppets can have a turnaround. I think it's more at the core. Those who are still drinking the serpent venom today, I think they're living generationally, perhaps still to be 500 years old. That's why they work off of the 500-year cycle for each civilization. America's now going down. China's going up. Although there's no future, I think they destroyed our world. I think it's over. And so China won't be the next 500-year cycle, because we don't have 5 years left. Okay? It looks like that. I hope I'm wrong. I wish I were wrong. I wish someone could prove me wrong, but I doubt that that will be possible. So the Watchers took the blood oath at Mount Hermon. The first blood oath on record on the planet was the 200 fallen Vicaresh, the Watchers, known as vicars today in the Vatican, the Watchers, took the blood oath. So I think them and their prodigy, if they're following the same pattern, I'm not Yahweh, so what I'm saying. It's one of those things where that's up to him. That's not an important issue, other than I think on the lower echelon, yeah, they could come out of the Illuminati, sure. I think a good Nazi could become a good follower of Yahweh, But time will, that's not in my department. So Judah, okay, continuing on here. Wait a minute, let me back up now. I got lost here. All right, I'll start with 17. Okay, they served Baal, and then passed their sons and daughters through the fire, and practiced divination and worship snakes, and sold themselves. It may also imply, when it says worship snakes, that if they worship snakes, I think it makes sense they were drinking snake venom, right? And sold themselves to do blind acts in the sight of Yahweh, and provoked him, the one of the many. Consequently, the ever Yahweh was very angry with Israel, and turned them from his presence. Turned them from his presence. Turned them from his presence, reserving none, none, reserving none, except the tribe of Judah alone. Okay? There is Israel no more. Judah also did not regard the commands of Yahweh, who is the great Elohim, but followed the same customs as Israel. And so on the microcosm, Judah is falling into the same category, okay? Because it creates a picture in the grander scheme about mankind. You know, remember David, how he was a bad, like, he did things that Abraham wouldn't have done. He did things Enoch wouldn't have done. Noah, Enoch, Abraham were perfect men. Was David a perfect man? No way. So David is representing the people of the earth, right? And it says that it's the picture that's being created is that Yahweh and the great Elohim loved David so much, even though he wasn't perfect, and he represents the people of the world. That Yahweh loves the people of the world, wants to save them. And so that's a picture that's created for us when we think that we're so inferior. We think we can never live up to the pure standard of Yeshua and the great Elohim. But David becomes the picture because we know he killed a man in order to get her woman, his woman, and had intercourse, fornication, adultery with a married woman, and then sends her husband to the front line to get killed. What more wickedness could you ever ask for? And so there's this dichotomy that I've been talking about, the duality. Okay, there's a duality going on here. That which in this instance should have been perfect was not, because it was talking about a period of time prior to the light that Yeshua brought, and the problem they were facing in the old covenant, in the old world, and how even after they saw all those great miracles, they still couldn't follow with their own eyes their parents, the record, quote unquote chosen. Well, they were chosen and then they were rejected, right? Okay, so therefore Yahweh rejected all the race of Israel. And he reduced them. He reduced them and gave them to the power of the plunderers. He reduced them and he gave them over to the power of the plunderers until he sent them from his presence, sent them away, the diaspora, the dispersion. For he tore, or we could say, and he ripped Israel from the house of David. And they crowned Jeroboam ben Nebat. And Jeroboam led Israel from following Yahweh and caused them to close their eyes to the great closing of the eye. So it was even greater what he had them do in wickedness. And so the seed of Israel went into all the darknesses of Jeroboam that he practiced and never turned from it. Never turned from it. Let me underline that in red. Never turned from it. Okay? And I guess that's what we see in the Freemasons today, when they're still honoring those two columns called Boaz and Jachin, or whatever that other name is, until the Yahweh turned Israel from his presence, as he threatened by the means of his servant, the navigators, the preachers, and the prophets, and rolled Israel from its land to Assyria to this day, to Ashur. Pushed them out from the land to this day. Okay? And that was written during the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, apparently when they were in Babylon. Okay, so that was 200 years later when this was being written. Okay, 200 years later, and even to that day, Israel was no more. And continuing, and then the king of Ashur brought people from Babel. Get this, it gets even more profound. Now we're getting more to this duality. It's a mind blower. It helps us to better comprehend what we read in our everlasting covenant, the New Testament. I referred down here on my notes. I wrote it down this morning about the woman in the well. Because it puts more appropriate bearing when Yeshua met the woman at the well, and how the Judeans don't even look at him, won't talk to him, won't eat with them, have nothing to do with them. Right? Get this. This is why. But it's still their own arrogance, right? It's still the arrogance of the Judean. Then the king Ashur brought people from Babel, and from Cush, and from Awa, which probably was Ava, there's Eve, and from Kamath, and from Sepharvaim, and settled them in the cities of Samaria, and they colonized its towns. So Babylonians come in and settle the very towns of Israel. Okay, take over the towns. A foreign entity, Babylonians of all people, among others. But it resulted that the newcomers who were settled there did not reverence Yahweh. So Yahweh sent lions upon them who killed them. Consequently, they reported to the king of Ashur, saying, the nations you have deported and settled in the towns of Samaria do not know the decrees of the great Elohim and of the land. And so he has sent lions to them who kill them, because they have no knowledge of the decrees of the great Elohim of that land. So consequently, the king of Ashur said, send there then some of the priests, the Ammon Kolnun priests, from that tribe, whom I have transported there, and let them go and live there, and teach them the decrees of the great Elohim of that land. So they sent back priests to that area from the tribes of Israel to teach them the customs of Yahweh, even though they were still going to serve other gods. Therefore, so you see how it's creating a false image now? It's literally creating a false Israel, right? That's what's going on. It's creating, in other words, people who are never were Israel ever, are now going to learn the customs of Israel and are going to practice them, while at the same time they practice their other traditions, right? It's a mind blower, right? It's like I've never read this before. Therefore, some of the Ammon priests who had been transported from Samaria returned to Bethel. And that's, Bethel means the first enlightenment, right? And it's Vathel meaning the enlightened serpent. That's another meaning. I remember the serpent is in all things, and it's prevalent in the storyline. And I'm going to keep revealing it, because we get the wrong picture about the serpent, and it was relevant in their lives, and taught them how to pay homage to Yahweh. But they, the nation by nation, also made their own gods and fixed them in the houses of the columns, which the Shamarians had constructed, nation by nation, in their towns where they resided. And thus the people of Babel made booths for girls. So now they're into prostitution, priesthood prostitution. And the people of Cush made Nergal. The people of Kamath made Ashima. And the Avites made Nibkaz and Tharthak. And the Sheravites burnt their sons in the fire to Adramalek and Agmalek, gods of the Sephirites. Yet they, let me take a sip of my drink here. Yet they worshipped, almost done here, but they worshipped let me back up again. Yet they worshipped Yahweh, but they made themselves priests from the mass of the priests of the columns, meaning, the priests of Baal, and also made for themselves temples of the columns, and worshipped Yahweh and the gods they were serving according to the customs of the nation from whence they were transported. Okay? And so you can see now, I think, ladies and gentlemen, get the bigger picture here. Israel was just banished and began to disappear in the absorption of the diaspora. But I'm going to read the footnotes here, rather interesting footnotes. Oh, well, what it is. Okay, so right there after transported, the last word, first footnote, the passages from verse 34 to the end of 40 are clearly a subsequent editorial comment of a translator, not part of the work of Isaiah, made perhaps by Nehemiah and only reflects the thoughts of Isaiah, which he had copied out. There, I therefore placed them at the foot of the page for our Fenton. So continuing, verse 34, to this day they use their former customs. They both worship Yahweh and practice according to their own institutions. Now let me take you to the Vatican, right? Because every Sunday they have the public ceremony, what they call the Mass, but yet the night before, downstairs in the basement, Saturday, they had their dark service, their occult service for themselves, and maybe ate baby flesh or drank blood, you know, and then the next day they come out with their white robes on after they took off their black robes, put their white robes on, and have that little wafer in their hand representing the moon of Lucifer, and put it on everybody's tongue, speaking the Luciferian Babylonian mind control, you know? And so there it is. See, so they had a dual worship, and a dual worship is what they do. Okay, and we can talk now about the Protestants, you know, because they're being run by the Masons and the Jesuits. Being run by the Masons, you know, the Baptist Church, you know, you name it. Okay, we're told to come out. We're told to come out of these things. So, ladies and gentlemen, okay, if you know you're getting the picture, this is the good news. The good news is to know the truth and to be set free from the falsehood. So continuing, and okay, so I'm going to back up again, 34. And to this day, they use their former customs, and both worship the Yahweh and practice according to their own institutions or inclinations, and according to their customs and usages, and according to the law and commands which Yahweh commanded the sons of Yaakov, who bears the royal title of Israel, with whom Yahweh made a covenant and commanded them, saying, you shall not worship other deities, nor bow down to them, nor serve them, nor sacrifice to them, but only to Yahweh, who brought you up from the land of Mitzrayim with great power and a directing arm. Pay homage to him and bow down to him, the one of the many, and sacrifice to him, the one of the many. That's what him means, the one of the many. And the institutions and the decrees and the laws and the commands which he wrote for you, guard and practice for all time. And pay homage to no other deities. Worship, pay homage to Yahweh, who is the great Elohim, and he will deliver you from the hand of your enemies. They, however, would not listen, because this is how these heathen worship Yahweh. Yet they were serving their idols. The sons of the grandsons do as their fathers practice to this day. To this day, ladies and gentlemen, and that's written at about 526 BC, while they're in Babylon, and they're writing this stuff down because they're trying to maintain the record that they lost when they burned the library, when Nebuchadnezzar burned the library in Israel. Okay, so mind blower. So what I put here then, and yet on the last line again is, yet they were serving their idols, and their sons and their grandsons do as their fathers practice to this day. And that's talking about Israel. Okay, so I put down here, so this is actually what we're reading right here. I put in my footnote, is the final epitaph of Israel. They're done. It's over. There's no more Israel. Only Judah is left. It was Judah who was banished to Babylon. Remember, they were in Jerusalem, and that's what was surrounded by Nebuchadnezzar. It was Judah, the smallest now, that the remnant, that which is left. Okay, and so what I put here then as my note, reference the Sumerian woman at the well talking to Yeshua, because think of how then the Judeans, who were corrupted by the Babylonian Talmud, because when Cyrus allowed not Israel, because see, that's how they say it, not Israel but Judah, let Judah go back to Jerusalem. What came back as evidenced in the book of Chronicles, it gives the code and the key, if one can interpret it, when Azazel come back It said out of Azazel, the tribe of Azazel, which is the scapegoat. It said 666 came back from the tribe of Azazel. But some of the books say it was 665 because they knew it looked too obvious. So they changed one, took off one number, made it 665. That was telling us that they brought back with them the occult, the duality, the Babylonian Talmud. And so so even Judah, therefore even Judah was now over for practical purposes. And that's why Yeshua came back, 500 years later after that great tribulation, which is what it was. When Yeshua was in the temple talking to those pharaohs, shame, he wasn't taught. Israel was gone. Judah was gone. What was there was a commercial enterprise, a business operation, and business was good. And that's why they were so happy to crucify, and murder the Mashiach. They knew who he was. They knew who he was. They didn't want him. Wanted nothing to do with them. They're in business, babe. And the whoredom that it reflects. So when we hear the story about Yeshua meeting the Samaritan woman at the well, and she says, "What are you doing talking to me?" People of Judah, meaning the Babylonian Talmud, not the original Judah, but now also a surplanter over there with the Babylonian Talmud. And she says that you people won't even, what are you doing talking to me? You people don't have any dealings with Samaritans. You won't eat with them. You wouldn't drink out of their cup. You don't talk to them. And you speak a foreign tongue, with these funny little squiggly letters. We can't even read it. And so Yeshua, but yet look at how she spoke. She says, our fathers. She referred to Yaakov, as our fathers, that, they dug this well, and we're waiting for the Mashiach. So these people who were foreigners from Babylon, who came into Samaria, took over the customs of Israel, while they also observed their other customs, actually acknowledged Yaakov as their father and the tradition that they embraced. There's the duality again, ladies and gentlemen, what I was talking about, the duality from both ends, from foreigners and from Israel, a switch out. Like, I don't remember ever reading it, before. It's amazing. And so, I'm absolutely, how appropriate. I'm just, the timing of Yeshua is always the most profound. And it was just at the time when I started this theme, and I don't think there was any better way to ever present this theme of, how come the occult, have taken over our scriptures? How come, you hear Desert on the broadcast talking down, the King James and all the other translations, saying that they're not perfect, they're not right, they're telling part truth and part lie? Well, either it is or it isn't. We've got to talk the truth. It's okay. It's okay because the great spirit of life comes right through. Comes right through in the classic sense of the serpent. When the dark serpents are wiggling to the left and wiggling to the right, well, the white serpent of Yeshua is also then moving, to the left and moving to the right along with them, coming down through time. He knew all the tricks and the trap and the trade and the craft, and so he is the one who reveals it. He shows the tricks and the trade and the trap. Okay, so it's by revelation. The light comes as a revelation, because as I did the other day, maybe yesterday, I think, I talked about the false prophet and the true prophet. And what did the false prophet say to his slave? He said, take the true prophet, bury him in my grave, and when I die, bury me on top of him. So the false prophet is buried on top of the true prophet. And so we got to, find the true prophet buried underneath the false prophet, because it's still there. Because at one point we have to transcend the written word, and we can receive it direct from Yeshua, the great light of truth, the tree of knowledge, the tree of life. Okay? All Yeshua. So there's the good news. Nothing lost. It's revealed. It's uncovered. It has to be that way, because the truth isn't coming to you on a silver platter with gold tinseled foil all around it, and there's nothing you have to do but kick back and read a book. You've got to discover the great mystery of how this game was played on you, ladies and gentlemen. The words, it's in the words. They took out our original words, they put in false terminology. And so in the beginning is the Shavor, and the Shavor is the prime Indo-Germanic Aramaic mother tongue. The Shavor is the word. It means royal center. It's two words. Shavor is royal center. It is the sword, the flaming sword of truth, representative of the sun, as well as the Shavor, the word, the shower, the latter rain. Shavor, the Savior that comes with the sword in his hand, coming out of his mouth at the same time, and cuts both ways, cuts in a duality, cuts both ways, and the sower, the Shavor, all of those words in that one original thought. You see how important, ladies and gentlemen, it is to go back to the original, because it's poetry. It's an expression of where we came from. It is our heritage. It is the answer to the problem. We can't be on a merry-go-round just saying, Jesus loves me, yes, I know, for the Bible tells me so, and not know any of the great mystery of what it really means and what it's all about. It's a mystery, and mysteries have to be sought out. Okay? So you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen, on the realpublicradio.net, Free America Radio Network, and I'm very honored to share that with our listening audience today. And so, you know, the scripture says today is the day of salvation, right? And so the word salvation is also corrupted, and I'm going to give it to you. It's soul. It's an abbreviation. As I say, they abbreviate the words, and therefore it is possible to know, once you know how the game is played and the tricks and the trap and the craft. Okay. Oh, and by the way, you know, the craft, you know, when I'm talking about, you know, the Freemasons, right? Well, in the Middle English Dictionary, they like to call themselves the craft, right? And they're very crafty. And they were the ones who originally were crafting ships. And they had to cut trees to craft ships. And that's where we get the terminology treason. Treason comes from the trees' sons, because they're the ones who commit the treason, the secret societies, and are the trees' sons, the ones who crafted ships to go around the world and deceive all the world, you know, to deceive the entire world, like it said the beast system did on the craft with the priest. You know, the priest was always on the ship with the craft. And so in the Middle English Dictionary, it says that craft means treason. Okay? Craft means treason. I guess whether you're talking about witchcraft or the Masonic craft, you know, because they're secret societies. They have no allegiance to your nation. They have no allegiance to mankind. They hold allegiance to the darkness, and business is good, and it's a big party. And who cares about you? We'll kill you if we got to kill you. That's what they did to 3,000 people in the Twin Towers who didn't have a chance, but apparently the Islamic people didn't go to work that day. And the Jews didn't go to work that day, but they didn't tell the Goyim, don't go to work that day. The Goyim, the cattle, the chattel, the food for fodder, they went to work, and 3,000 of them died. So today is the day of salvation, and knowing truth, because it's the truth that sets us free. And it's in the Shavors, it's in the word, in the latter rain, the Shavor. And so salvation is actually two words. Write it down. Salvation, you know that spelling. And then below it put two words with a hyphen. Sol Novation. Sol Novation. S-O-L hyphen N-O, capital N, for that which comes down, N-O-V-A-T-I-O-N. Novation. And so Sol Novation literally means the making of a new star. And isn't that what Abraham was told? That your seed will be like the stars of heaven? There's your salvation. It's Sol Novation. And that's why repent, literally means to rebreathe the breath of a star, because you see the word pent right in repent is penta, which is a star, and pent as in panting. When you're running, you're panting. because you're breathing heavy. So repent literally means to rebreath, the breath of a star, and salvation, soul novation, means to make yourself a star. Is that not beautiful, ladies and gentlemen? You don't get this anywhere else, because no, it's like even the people who are trying to figure it out are having difficulty figuring out. There's a lot of good people out there working with words, and but they're stuck in the Hebrew and the Greek. The Hebrew, why? Why would anybody want to study Hebrew when it was exclusive to the wealthy and to the priesthood? And as they call the book the Sefer, which means cipher, which means code, and you're not included in the game. It's an occult book. It's occultic. They don't care about it. It's only the cover. Remember we talked about Bible, which means the covering of the illuminated. Well, it's not talking about the illuminated that follow Yeshua. It's talking about the phony illuminated who claim to be of the light, and they don't care about the book. They just wanted to take control of the book. They took control of the storyline, took control of the words, and therefore they're keeping it as their cover to pretend religion when they're really following Krishna of India and Shiva. And that's the evidence is the Zionist star today on pseudo-Israel. That star David never belonged to David. Never. They were not allowed to make images and idols. Okay, we are the images of light. We, by our behavior, by our character, by our we're the only, and so the only images we're allowed to make, okay, are letters of the alphabet. The original Aramaic are the only symbols we're allowed to make in the pure tradition, and they tell the story. They are hieroglyphs, okay? So we'll be doing that more later this evening. If you want to jump in and call, I know that people have been texting. Wait a minute, I got another one here. Could it be that? Oh no, that was from earlier. Okay, but I apologize. I was really trying to stay focused with this one. If you were trying to hit me up, remember that that was good, Anna, when you put a question in all capital letters. I saw it. But if anybody wants to call in 608-566-7295. I'm gonna hold off my other read out of the New Testament Apocrypha for tomorrow morning. Okay, I wanted to do something special on on the weekend, deviating from the book of Eusebius, the history of the church, and I thought, why not read some other history, because I've got some really profound reading for you, that you may not have heard before, and it's going to blow your mind. And I'm talking about like when I go dig up some of my books, when Yeshua was still here after he came back the second time, rose from the dead, and he visited with his brothers and sisters, and he was revealing the secrets and the mysteries, and how he was here for, like, I'm not sure of the exact timeline because I've heard different numbers, that are coming to my mind right now, but it was at least for 3 months. At a minimum, it was 3 months. He was still appearing to them, and it may have been longer than that. But I'm going to give you one where he sat down and he just speaks plainly, no more in the parabolic expression, but plainly, and he talks about John the Baptist and the whole symbolism of having his head cut off and all of this. It's there's so much that we've been robbed of, ladies and gentlemen, and so I'm just very grateful, to pass it on to you. For me, it's life, because I've been shut down for the last year, not able to broadcast when I wanted to get on YouTube, and I had, I'm on, no funny money, and nothing coming in, and then my computer was crashing, and by January it finally died, and because I couldn't broadcast it, it would shut down, and I couldn't get back in if it kept shutting down that way, and then I got a new computer, and I still can't transfer my old data to my new computer, which I've got tens of thousands of files of my old audios, graphics, my entire translation project, all there, and so hoping that ultimately things will turn around in that direction. So if you want to, here's a way that you can support the ministry if you ever are so inclined. Okay, I'm gonna also pull out a website here, so you can support this radio ministry by if you want to get a copy of the Real Da Vinci Code Etymological Dictionary, or just call it short, the Real Da Vinci Code, and that's 300 pages, 8.5 by 11, or the Book of Wisdom. If you want to get a copy, the Book of Wisdom, it's good to go for publishing, and I want to get it to the people in prison. It's the greatest book of wisdom you ever read. It was written by Joseph of Arimathea, the great uncle of Yeshua. It came out of the Kolbrin. Okay, it came out of England, and he wrote it. He wrote it after they escaped Jerusalem, 3 years after Yeshua came back and rose from the dead. And Mary and Joseph of Arimathea and a dozen other people or more escaped to England, and it was the first Christian settlement outside of Jerusalem. Okay, the first official Christian settlement. And or if you want to get a copy of the original thought translation project, a sample of the original gospel that I'm working on. I'm bringing in all the lost writings and all the gospels into one story, rather than have them all fragmented. I think for our time, they need to be brought together. Okay, so that's the original thought, the original gospel. So any one of those three items, I request that you get them one at a time, unless you want to make a significant donation. I'll get them to you all at once, But and if you don't have the funny money, I'll get it to you. I'll just send it to you. I just need to. If you want to go to the PayPal, it's go to therealpublicradio.net, therealpublicradio.net, and then you'll see PayPal buttons over there. Can't miss it. And then if you want to support your health and you want to support this broadcast another way, there's an online health food store, and you can actually have your own online health food store for free with no obligation to make monthly purchases. You buy when you want, and if you want to go there, you can go. My wonderful friend who's been supporting my ministry for about 15 years now, Ray, up in Idaho. I'm giving out his website when people join this program and our project. Then we'll give out your website over the air as well, and we put everybody on a 3x5 card and rotate them. And so when people come in, as our broadcast grows, then people will be coming in, joining, and we'll put them on a card and we'll rotate them and sign people up under you. So because people are struggling today, everybody needs a hand up today. Our dollar's worthless, and so this is what I call a lead share program, where we'll sign people up under your account as well. So go to the website, check it out, look at the video. I know the owners of the company, and they're just wonderful people. Kim Kaufman, she did the product Ionite. It's the best mineral product, and when you spray it on plants, they come back to life as well if they froze overnight. So go to Free America, all one word, freeamerica.basicreset.com. That's Free America, as in freedom, freeamerica.basicreset.com. And then if you want to get on our lead share program, just call. Okay, we'll sign you up and we'll give you somebody else's website. We really want people, to call, and then in rotation we'll sign people up under people for free, no monthly obligation, and they actually have weekly pay by PayPal. Okay, we're just getting started in the program, and but I've been with them buying the product for over a year now, and I know that it's a growing health food store, so you can have your own online store, no money down, and have a tax write-off, and also have some of the most superior products. Fred Kaufman cured his mother of brain cancer. When they gave her like a death sentence of several weeks to live, he said, "Mom, if you listen to me, I can heal you." So these products that he used to help his mother are there. And when you take them in synergistic form, like the beta glucan, and the ionized mineral, and the bee pollen, and some other things that are there, take them all together, and you know that even cancer can't stay in a healthy environment. That it's all about the environment, the body. So let your food be your medicine. Let your medicine be your food, and the bad the boogie bugs, the things that want to take you down, they go away. Okay, that's the beauty, regeneration. And rather than poison your body and kill you 10 different ways and make sure you never have strength to recover, there are alternatives. So we can't really say it like it is here on that regard, but you know what I mean. So, okay, so soul novation, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, in there is the Vat. So literally soul novation also means the enlightened knowledge of the serpent. The enlightened knowledge of the serpent. You keep hearing me talk about it because, you know, a serpent is not evil by itself. We are just identifying with the way it was used back then, how it refers to us, how it refers to nature, how it refers to the occult, how it refers to the luminescence of the sun. It's the serpent is everywhere. The serpent in that metaphor is all things. Everything is spinning. Everything is twisting and weaving. And thank you so much, Anna, for being with us today and for your, all of your dialogue. I'll go back when I do a review of the program. I always try to make sure I didn't miss any questions and I answer them for the people. So I'll go back, make sure I answered everybody's questions, and very grateful for the gathering today in the comments. We're just a small little group, and but you motivate me. You all motivate me to keep on ticking here because I it'd be hard to talk to nobody and just do a recording. I wouldn't be very motivated. But having some wonderful friends come by really gives me the impetus to want to do my best. To bring out the light of what Yeshua has given to me over a lifetime. Okay, so with that, I want to again thank you for tuning in. We're here to serve. Anytime you want to call, give me a call. I'll be happy to say hi and try to answer a question if you're still dealing with an issue. But I'd love to have it on the air. Love to have that call on the program because then everybody gets to benefit, right? Everybody gets to hear the question and hear the feedback. But I'll talk anytime. I'm up till midnight Eastern time most nights. And with that, I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, okay? If you want to know the future, you just need to look for the Forbidden History. And we're right here every morning at 9 p.m. Eastern Time and 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I'll get it right one of these days. 9 a.m. Eastern Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Time in the evening. I'm Desert Owl, thanking you for tuning in. We'll see you later this evening. Be safe. Watch that sun. And don't forget Dane Wigington, okay? Dane Wigington. Later today, 2 p.m. Lynn, thank you so much. Thank you. And are we having fun yet? Well, I hope so. We've got to be able to laugh in the face of all this insanity we're facing, right? All right. I'm out of here. Good night.